What if the most valuable treasure in your pocket isn't made of gold or silver, but of ordinary-looking copper and nickel? Imagine reaching into your change jar, pulling out a 1995 Washington quarter with a tiny P mint mark, and wondering whether you've just found a coin worth a fortune. It sounds like the beginning of a Hollywood treasure hunt, but the truth is even more fascinating than the rumors. The 1995 Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a time when billions of quarters flowed through cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks across America. At first glance, there's nothing extraordinary about it. It features George Washington, the nation's first president, on the front, while the familiar eagle design appears on the reverse, representing the final years of the classic Washington quarter before the famous 50-state quarters program transformed the series in 1999. More than 500 million 1995 Philadelphia quarters were produced. That number alone tells an important story. Most of these coins are worth only their face value because they were made in enormous quantities. Yet history has a funny way of hiding extraordinary stories inside ordinary objects. Collectors don't chase common coins. They chase the unexpected. Some 1995 quarters left the mint with remarkable production errors. These include dramatic off-center strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, and coins struck on the wrong metal blanks. Such mistakes escaped the mint's quality control and entered circulation, creating genuine rarities that collectors eagerly search for decades later. Think about the odds for a moment. Imagine millions of perfectly made coins rolling off massive presses every single day. Then, for just a brief instant, something goes wrong. A blank shifts. A die strikes twice. A different metal planchet slips into the production line. That split-second mistake transforms an ordinary coin into a fascinating piece of minting history. Even more exciting are examples preserved in exceptional condition. Professional grading services evaluate coins using strict standards, and a flawless mint-state example can command a significant premium over an average circulated quarter. Collectors value originality, sharp details, brilliant luster, and the absence of wear. But here's where fact separates from fiction. You've probably seen sensational headlines claiming that a 1995 Washington quarter is worth hundreds of thousands, or even nearly $1 million. Those stories spread rapidly online because they capture our imagination. The reality is that a typical 1995 Philadelphia quarter is not worth anywhere near those figures. Extraordinary prices are generally associated only with exceptionally rare mint errors or coins possessing truly unique characteristics, and any claim of a standard 1995 P quarter selling for $995,000 should be treated with healthy skepticism unless supported by verified auction records and expert authentication. That doesn't make the search any less exciting. Every collector knows the greatest discoveries begin with curiosity. Hidden among ordinary pocket change have been genuine mint errors worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Across American numismatic history, countless valuable coins were discovered in everyday circulation simply because someone decided to look a little closer. The 1995 Washington quarter also represents the end of an era. Within just a few years, the United States Mint would launch one of the most successful coin programs in history, introducing state-themed quarters that inspired millions of Americans to begin collecting. In many ways, the 1995 issue became one of the last chapters of the classic Washington quarter design that had served the nation since 1932. So the next time you receive change at a grocery store or uncover an old jar of coins tucked away in a closet, don't dismiss that humble quarter too quickly. Examine the date. Look for unusual features. Compare it with other coins. Ask yourself, is this simply another 25 cents? Or could it tell a story no one has noticed yet? Sometimes the greatest treasures aren't hiding in pirate ships or ancient tombs. Sometimes they're waiting quietly in the palm of your hand, challenging you to take a closer look. And who knows? The next remarkable discovery in the world of coin collecting might begin with the quarter you've almost overlooked today. Have you ever looked at a 1997 D Washington quarter and wondered if it could change your life? It sounds unbelievable, but some ordinary-looking coins have shocked collectors by selling for astonishing prices because of extraordinary circumstances. The truth is, while millions of 1997 D quarters are worth only 25 cents, a tiny handful with exceptional qualities or dramatic minting errors have become some of the most sought-after modern coins in American numismatics. So what makes one quarter spendable and another unforgettable? To understand the story, we have to travel back to 1997. America was approaching a new millennium. The internet was beginning to reshape everyday life, and cash remained king for millions of daily transactions. That year, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters featuring the familiar portrait of George Washington on the front and the majestic eagle on the reverse. Designed by John Flanagan, the Washington quarter had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American history after its introduction in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. At first glance, the 1997 D quarter appears completely ordinary. The small D mint mark beneath "In God We Trust" simply tells us it was struck in Denver. Most of these coins entered circulation immediately, passing through cash registers, vending machines, and countless pockets across America. Few people gave them a second thought. But hidden among the millions are coins that tell a very different story. Every coin begins its life as a blank metal planchet before powerful presses strike it with incredible force. Occasionally, something goes wrong. A die develops a crack. Planchet is defective. The strike is dramatically off-center. Or a coin receives multiple strikes by mistake. These accidents create mint errors that collectors eagerly search for because no two are exactly alike. Imagine opening an old jar of change inherited from a grandparent and spotting a quarter with an obvious error. Most people might assume it's damaged and spend it without hesitation. A knowledgeable collector, however, might recognize that unusual feature as the very reason the coin is valuable. The highest prices associated with a 1997 D Washington quarter are not for ordinary circulated examples. Instead, they involve extraordinary specimens with remarkable mint errors or coins preserved in nearly flawless condition. Professional grading services examine these coins under magnification, evaluating every tiny detail. A single point difference in grade can mean the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth thousands. Stories like these fuel the excitement of treasure hunters across the country. Every roll of quarters from a bank becomes a mystery waiting to be solved. Every handful of pocket change carries the possibility, however slim, of revealing something extraordinary. One of the greatest misconceptions in coin collecting is that age alone determines value. That's simply not true. A modern coin with an incredibly rare error or perfect preservation can be worth far more than a coin that's centuries old. Rarity, condition, collector demand, and authenticity all work together to determine value. You've probably seen sensational headlines claiming a 1997 D Washington quarter is worth $997,000. While such claims attract enormous attention, they should be viewed with caution. There is no widely verified public auction record showing a standard 1997 D Washington quarter selling for that amount. Extraordinary prices generally require an extraordinary combination of factors, such as a unique mint error, an exceptionally high certified grade, or another highly unusual characteristic. That's why professional authentication is essential before assuming any coin has life-changing value. Even so, the thrill remains very real. Some of the greatest discoveries in coin collecting have happened by accident. Valuable coins have surfaced in forgotten collections, old piggy banks, estate sales, and even loose change. What separates those discoveries from everyday spending is often nothing more than curiosity and careful observation. So the next time a quarter lands in your hand, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look at the date. Find the mint mark. Examine the details. Ask yourself whether you're holding just another 25-cent coin or a small piece of history with a remarkable story waiting to be uncovered. After all, every legendary treasure begins with someone who decided to look just a little more closely. And perhaps the next incredible discovery isn't locked away in a museum or buried beneath ancient ruins. It could be sitting quietly in your pocket right now, waiting for someone curious enough to notice it. Have you ever looked at a 2016 P Washington quarter and thought it might be worth nearly $1 million? Most people would laugh at the idea. After all, it's just another quarter, right? But here's the twist that keeps collectors searching through pocket change every single day. While millions of ordinary 2016 P quarters are worth only 25 cents, An extraordinarily rare example with the right combination of condition and minting characteristics could become one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. So, how can a coin that millions of Americans barely notice become the center of an intense treasure hunt? To understand the fascination, we have to travel back to 2016. The United States Mint continued its long-running America the Beautiful Quarters program, celebrating national parks and historic sites across the country. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by the small P mint mark, struck hundreds of millions of quarters that year. They were designed to circulate through everyday commerce, passing from one hand to another without anyone giving them a second thought. Yet history has a funny way of hiding extraordinary stories inside ordinary objects. The Washington quarter itself traces its roots back to 1932, when it was first introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. What began as a commemorative coin eventually became one of America's most recognizable pieces of currency. Every generation has carried Washington quarters in their pockets, unknowingly holding small pieces of American history. The 2016 Philadelphia issues carried forward that tradition while featuring beautiful reverse designs honoring America's natural treasures. They remind us that coins are more than money. They're tiny historical documents, preserving moments that future generations can hold in their hands. But here's where things become truly fascinating. Collectors aren't searching for just any 2016 P quarter. They're hunting for the rare exceptions. Minting errors can transform an ordinary coin into an extraordinary collectible. Off-center strikes, dramatic die cracks, doubled design elements, missing clad layers, or other significant production mistakes can instantly capture the attention of professional graders and serious collectors. Even without dramatic errors, condition matters more than most people realize. A coin that entered circulation immediately may show scratches, contact marks, and wear. But an example preserved in extraordinary mint condition, displaying razor-sharp details and exceptional luster, can stand far above the millions of ordinary pieces struck that year. That's why experts spend hours examining coins under powerful magnification. Sometimes the smallest detail separates a common quarter from an incredibly desirable rarity. Now let's address one of the biggest myths surrounding this coin. You may have seen headlines claiming a 2016 P Washington quarter is worth an astonishing $916,000. Those stories often spread rapidly across social media, creating excitement and sending people searching through jars of spare change. In reality, there is no widely verified public auction record showing a standard 2016 P Washington quarter selling for that amount. Extraordinary prices generally require an exceptionally rare mint error, a one-of-a-kind characteristic, or another highly unusual circumstance that attracts fierce bidding among elite collectors. That doesn't mean searching is pointless. History has repeatedly shown that valuable mint errors are discovered years after coins enter circulation. Hidden treasures have appeared inside old piggy banks, forgotten collections, cash registers, and even loose change received at grocery stores. Every discovery begins with someone deciding to look just a little more carefully than everyone else. Perhaps that's the greatest mystery of modern coin collecting. How many remarkable coins are still circulating unnoticed? How many people have unknowingly spent a coin that could have changed a collector's life? And could another incredible discovery still be waiting inside a handful of ordinary-looking quarters? The beauty of the 2016 P Washington quarter isn't simply its potential value. It's the reminder that history, craftsmanship, and possibility can exist inside something most people overlook every single day. Every coin tells a story of design, precision, and the journey it has taken through countless hands across America. So the next time you receive change, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. Examine the mint mark. Study the details. You may not find a six-figure rarity, but you'll begin seeing coins the way collectors do. Not just as money, but as miniature pieces of history with stories still waiting to be uncovered. And who knows? The next extraordinary discovery could already be sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. Have you ever glanced at a modern quarter, tossed it into a jar, or handed it over at a checkout counter without giving it a second thought? What if one of those ordinary-looking coins carried a story far more valuable than its 25-cent face value? The 2020p Washington quarter isn't a $1 million coin by default, but under the right circumstances, certain rare varieties and extraordinary mint errors have turned modern pocket change into prized collector treasures. And that's exactly what makes this coin so fascinating. The story begins in Philadelphia, where millions of 2020 quarters rolled off the presses during one of the most unusual years in modern American history. The P mint mark identifies the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most important mints in the United States. While these coins were produced for everyday commerce, they also became part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, celebrating remarkable national parks and historic sites across the country. At first glance, the design feels familiar. George Washington's portrait, inspired by the classic sculpture created by Jean-Antoine Houdon, remains on the front. But flip the coin over, and each 2020 quarter tells a different American story, honoring places like National Park of American Samoa, War Farm National Historic Site, Salt River Bay, Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park, and Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve. But here's where things get interesting. Most people believe valuable coins must be centuries old. That's simply not true. Modern coins can become incredibly desirable when something unusual happens during the minting process. Imagine a machine striking a coin slightly off-center, creating a dramatic error. Picture a double design where letters or details appear twice. Or think about a coin struck on the wrong planchet altogether. These aren't just mistakes. To collectors, they're hidden treasures. So what makes someone inspect every quarter they receive? Because history has shown that rare mint errors can command astonishing prices at major auctions. While ordinary 2020p quarters remain worth face value, exceptional error coins certified in outstanding condition have attracted serious collector attention. The combination of rarity, demand, and preservation can transform a common coin into something extraordinary. Now ask yourself this: how many quarters have passed through your hands since 2020? Hundreds? Maybe thousands? How many did you actually examine? That's the mystery that keeps treasure hunters searching. Another fascinating detail is that 2020 was a year unlike any other. The pandemic disrupted daily life across America, changing spending habits and coin circulation. As businesses closed and people stayed home, many freshly minted quarters remained tucked away in bank vaults or private collections longer than expected. That unusual chapter in history gives these coins an added layer of historical significance beyond their metal composition. Collectors also chase the highest possible grades. A coin that appears flawless under magnification may receive a mint state grade from professional grading services. In the world of numismatics, even tiny imperfections can separate an ordinary collectible from one that commands a premium. Of course, you've probably heard sensational stories claiming an ordinary 2020p Washington quarter is worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Those headlines often leave out the most important detail. Extraordinary prices are associated only with exceptionally rare circumstances, such as unique mint errors, remarkable condition, or one-of-a-kind characteristics verified by professional authentication. A typical circulating quarter is not worth anywhere near those figures. Still, that's exactly why the hunt never ends. Every collector knows the next incredible discovery could be sitting unnoticed in a coin roll, an old piggy bank, or the loose change forgotten inside a kitchen drawer. The excitement isn't just about money. It's about finding something unexpected, preserving a piece of American history, and becoming part of a story that continues with every new discovery. So the next time a 2020p Washington quarter lands in your hand, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. Examine every letter, every detail, and every edge. You might simply find another ordinary quarter. Or you might uncover a remarkable mint error that turns an everyday coin into a conversation piece collectors dream about owning. After all, history doesn't always hide inside ancient treasure chests. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. What if one of the newest coins in your pocket turned out to have a story stretching back nearly 3 centuries? It sounds impossible, doesn't it? After all, how could a 2021p Washington quarter be considered historic when it's barely a few years old? The answer isn't just about the date on the coin. It's about the remarkable journey of the woman it honors, the legacy of America's longest-running coin design, and the rare minting mistakes that have transformed a handful of ordinary-looking quarters into prized collectibles. The story begins long before 2021. George Washington first appeared on the quarter in 1932, celebrating the 200th anniversary of his birth. Few people imagined that his portrait would remain one of the most recognizable images in American coinage for generations. Over the decades, the reverse changed many times, from the classic eagle to the famous 50-state quarters, the America the Beautiful series, and finally a new chapter in 2021. That year marked a historic transition. While George Washington remained on the front, the reverse featured General George Washington crossing the Delaware River, replacing the America the Beautiful series. It was a bold redesign inspired by one of the most dramatic moments of the American Revolutionary War. The image captured determination, courage, and the gamble that changed history forever. The P Mint mark tells us this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most important mints in the United States. Millions of these quarters rolled off high-speed presses, entering circulation almost immediately. Most became everyday pocket change, passed from one person to another without a second glance. But that's where the mystery begins. If millions were made, why do collectors spend hours examining them under magnification? Why are people searching through coin rolls from banks, hoping to find something extraordinary? The answer lies in the unexpected. Although a normal circulated 2021 P Washington quarter is typically worth only its face value, a tiny number escaped the mint with dramatic production errors. Off-center strikes, major die cracks, broad strikes, double strikes, and other significant minting mistakes can transform an ordinary quarter into an exciting collectible. The rarer and more dramatic the error, especially in exceptional condition, the more interest it attracts among collectors. Then there are coins preserved in remarkable mint condition. Professional grading services evaluate coins based on preservation, and examples receiving the highest grades can command premiums far above face value. The difference between a heavily circulated quarter and a flawless mint state example can be astonishing. Over the years, internet rumors have claimed that ordinary 2021 P quarters are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes even mentioning figures like $921,000. These headlines generate excitement, but they leave out an important detail. There is no verified record of a standard 2021 P Washington quarter selling for that amount. Extraordinary prices, when they occur in the coin market, are generally tied to exceptionally rare mint errors, unique varieties, or coins with extraordinary provenance, not typical circulation strikes. Even so, that doesn't make the search any less thrilling. Every collector knows the feeling. You receive change at a grocery store, glance at a quarter, and suddenly wonder, could this be different? That single question has launched countless collections and inspired generations of treasure hunters. Sometimes the reward isn't just financial. It's the excitement of discovering history hiding in plain sight. The 2021 Washington quarter also represents a turning point in American coinage. It bridges the classic Washington design with the modern era that soon introduced the American Women Quarters program. In many ways, it serves as the final chapter of one tradition before another began. That's what makes this coin fascinating. It's not ancient Roman silver or medieval gold. It's a modern coin carrying centuries of American history, artistic evolution, and the possibility, however slim, of an extraordinary discovery. So the next time a quarter lands in your hand, don't spend it without taking a closer look. Examine the date, find the mint mark, and inspect every detail. You may not uncover a life-changing rarity, but you'll hold a small piece of history that connects the Revolutionary War, the Philadelphia Mint, and the everyday lives of millions of Americans. And who knows, the next remarkable coin discovery might not be locked away in a museum. It could already be sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. Have you ever looked at a modern quarter and thought it couldn't possibly be worth more than 25 cents? Most people spend them without a second glance. But what if one ordinary-looking 2022 P Washington quarter turned out to be so unusual that collectors would compete fiercely to own it? The truth is, while millions of these coins entered circulation, a tiny handful have become the center of an exciting modern treasure hunt. And before this story ends, you'll understand why searching your pocket change has become more thrilling than ever. The story begins in Philadelphia, one of America's oldest and most important mints. In 2022, the United States Mint struck hundreds of millions of Washington quarters bearing the small P mint mark. At first glance, they seemed completely ordinary. Yet 2022 marked an exciting new chapter in American coinage. Instead of continuing the long-running America the Beautiful series, the Mint introduced the American Women Quarters program, celebrating remarkable women who changed history through courage, science, art, politics, and justice. Every coin carried the familiar portrait of George Washington on the front, but the reverse honored groundbreaking American women whose achievements inspired generations. That alone made the 2022 P. Washington quarter historically significant. It represented not just currency, but a changing story of America itself. But here's where the mystery begins. If millions of these quarters exist, why are collectors searching banks, cash registers, and even parking lot change trays for them? The answer isn't the ordinary coins. It's the extraordinary mistakes. Throughout history, minting errors have transformed everyday coins into legendary collectibles. Sometimes a die develops a crack. Sometimes grease blocks part of the design. Occasionally a coin is struck off-center, on the wrong planchet, or receives an unusually dramatic doubled design. These accidents aren't planned, but when they escape into circulation, collectors notice immediately. And that's exactly what has happened with certain 2022 Philadelphia quarters. Some examples display dramatic die chips, strong die cracks, retained cuds, off-center strikes, or other striking abnormalities. Others have exceptional strike quality combined with flawless preservation, earning the highest grading certifications available. That's the secret most people never hear. Condition matters just as much as rarity. A quarter that has spent only a few days in circulation can look completely different from one preserved immediately after leaving the mint. Professional grading services carefully examine every detail under magnification, assigning numerical grades that can dramatically influence value. Here's something even experienced collectors sometimes overlook. The difference between an average circulated quarter and a certified mint state example can be enormous. Add a spectacular mint error into the equation, and suddenly a 25-cent coin becomes something collectors eagerly pursue. Now let's address one claim that often spreads across the internet. You may have seen headlines suggesting a 2022 P. Washington quarter is worth $922,000. While sensational stories attract attention, there is currently no verified public auction record showing a regular 2022 P. Washington quarter selling for that amount. Values that high would require an extraordinarily rare combination of factors, such as a unique mint error, exceptional certification, extraordinary provenance, or another one-of-a-kind characteristic. Most 2022 quarters remain worth face value, while collectible examples with desirable errors or superb grades typically sell for far less. That doesn't make the search any less exciting. History has repeatedly proven that remarkable discoveries can hide in everyday change. Collectors have uncovered valuable error coins in rolls from local banks, forgotten jars, inherited collections, and even cash received during routine shopping trips. Imagine finding a quarter you've handled dozens of times, only to discover under magnification that it carries an unusual striking error almost nobody else has noticed. That's the thrill that keeps treasure hunters searching year after year. Every coin tells two stories. One is the story intended by the mint. The other is the story written by chance. For the 2022 P. Washington quarter, those accidental stories are what collectors love most. Every crack, every misplaced strike, every unusual flaw becomes a fingerprint that can never be perfectly repeated. So the next time someone hands you a quarter in change, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. Check the mint mark. Study the design. Search for anything unusual. Because while the odds of finding a life-changing rarity are incredibly small, history has shown that extraordinary discoveries often begin with an ordinary coin that everyone else overlooked. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson hidden inside the 2022 P. Washington quarter. Sometimes the greatest treasures aren't buried underground. They're already passing through our hands every single day, waiting for someone curious enough to stop, look closer, and uncover the story hiding in plain sight.